Hello and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. I'm your host, the whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is Black Minds News. Black Minds News is to report, articulate, transmit, communicate, insinuate, develop, investigate, unveil, decode, spread the news, whether it's by news, video, websites, or quotes from publications. As I articulate this information, I accept the creator of the universe, be here, heart, soul, mind, and spirit, because why? The truth don't need no partner. As a descendant of the greatest people who created this place that we call the United States, we, the foundational black Americans, the bloodline historical lineage, the historical people known as slaves, we who call ourselves BADOS, Black American Descendant of Slaves, some say Black African Descendant of Slaves, others say ADOS, American Descendant of Slaves. We, the today children, offspring, and present generation, we give honor to our ancestors. You know what my motto of my show is? I'm never going to tell you what I heard. I'm only going to tell you what I know. Yeah, today's day it is, August 21st, 2017. Came across an article and a video. Some of you may not have seen it. School in California. Say they were high schoolers. Video they had already been out. According to them, it said originally happened in November. Came to light outside of the confines of within the control. Became public. So some people, based on the reporting, feel some kind of way. Others are split. The question becomes, do nationalistic ideology, is it really all bad? Is they telling us that self-preservation is each and every ethnicity and people and nation and group? Is there something wrong when a group feels like it is being extinct? Does it have a right to defend itself? Does it have a right to preserve that which comes behind it? Most people will say yes. So, in the sense of what we're about to see here, and knowing those who have been, again, watching this show for some particular time, something was laid out that they took away. And so some people see the seriousness of it, and they're galvanizing behind it. They had a leader, said some things, have a symbol that stands for what it stands for, and there's plenty who still practice and have the mindset of understanding what those precepts were. So you can get caught up and not understanding it, look at it for what it is, and make your own interpretation. Today, Black Minds News is going to actually do that, show you what was said, give you some backgrounds to something, and again, you make the call. Again, this is Black Minds News, and stay tuned for this broadcast. Hey, how's y'all doing? Again, this is your host, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and thank you for tuning in to Black MINDZ News Report. First and foremost, I want to say what's good to my fam, subscribers, new and old. Welcome once again to another Black MINDZ News broadcast. Passerbys, if you should happen to pass by, this is the most hated show in the black corner of the internet. The reason why, we used to could get about 275,000 views, 50,000, 30,000, and so forth. Now today in 2019, we can't get past but 100 views. Been in business for 7 years. Got 2.9 thousand subscribers. Been stuck on that for about 3 years. And so what is it that we say over here that certain people don't want to be heard? Again, we don't do nothing but just relay the news, so it ain't like something we making up or I'm making up. I show you where I get it from. Now, I may have my own concept of my opinion about certain things that may rub some people wrong, but again, that's just what it is. So again, we want to welcome you over here to the most hated show on the black corner of the internet. Go through the aisle, see some things you might like. If you should happen to see something that rub you in the wrong way, just remember this, that the truth don't need no partner. Okay, so let's get into this. So, as I do, I'm seeking for things to put onto the channel for the show. And I came across this particular article, right? Let me go ahead and let you see it, right? Right? See that right there, right? And, just in the symbol of the image that you see, a lot of people going to be ticked off. A lot of people going to feel some kind of way. That salute has permeated in the mind, especially in this land, as to be a nationalistic stance. Some people can consider it to be a hateful stance. Everybody had their own interpretation because their own difference of understanding what certain things is. And so what happened is you see that in Southern California, a school district was strongly condemned a video showing students giving Nazi salute and singing the Nazi song, right? And so based on you hearing that, a lot of people are going to be feeling some kind of way, right? So let me go ahead and give you the report, right? First, then we'll do that. And then I'll read behind that. Okay, so here it goes. Well, should I do that first? Let's see. Maybe I should do that first, right? Let me give you that first, right? I think I should give you that first, right? I should give you that first, right? Let me give you these first. That way, get it all together right. Okay. So let's go there, and then should be okay. All right, let's get it. Southern Cal School District strongly condemns video showing students giving Nazi salute and singing Nazi songs. I'm going to say that again. Southern Cal School District strongly condemns video showing students giving Nazi salute and singing Nazi songs. This story is coming out of the CBS News out of Los Angeles, and this is how it reads. The story was done August 20th, 2019. Los Angeles, a school district in Southern California condemns a video high schoolers giving Nazi salutes and singing a Nazi song after it became public Monday. The video contained by Daily Beast, which posts about 8 seconds of it, showed members of the boys' water polo team at Pacifica High School in Garden Grove in an empty room that administrative officials say was later used for an athletic banquet. The song, written by German composer Hermes Neil during the rise of Hitler, was played to inspire Nazi troops during World War II. The Garden Grove Unified School District and the school issued a statement saying they strongly condemn The video showing students engaging in offensive Nazi-related gestures. Statement said the footage was recorded last November, but that administrators hadn't become aware of the video until March. Said the students were unsupervised at the time. The district and administrators had addressed the situation with all students and families involved, but wouldn't disclose if or how the students were disciplined, citing federal education privacy laws. I think this is indicative of a change where even some obscure Nazi rhetoric has now been mainstream on a very fragmented internet, said Brian Levin, the director for the study of hate and extremism at California State University, San Bernardino. Levin called it troubling and said these incidents are becoming more common as anti-Semitism rise online, especially in darker corners of the internet. The regional director of the Anti-Defamation League told CBS Los Angeles the district has reached out for help with educating students and staff of the issues of bias. Rabbi Peter Levy said a swastika, a Nazi salute, a racist joke, a sexist joke, is never funny. We can never excuse it by saying kids are kids, because what it does is it normalizes hate. It normalizes an extremist ideal. This was the second time a high school in Orange County has dealt with students engaged in Nazi portrayals, CBS LA pointed out. Controversial photo surfaced on social media March 3rd showing students at an off-campus party saluting like Nazi around red plastic cups arranged to form a swastika during a game of beer pong. Party was attended by a few dozen teenagers from Newport Harbor, Costa Mesa, and Estancia high schools. The photo touched off a firestorm of criticism and prompted several community meetings. Newport Harbor High even brought in Holocaust survivor Eva Schloss, the stepsister of Anne Frank, to meet with some of the students involved. On May, a 22-year-old woman was charged with putting up Nazi propaganda posters around Fullerton College and Newport Harbor High School, CBS LA adds.
How far does the school administration have to go to alert a school community about an incident involving Nazi propaganda? And how did a Pacifica High school student, that school is right behind me, gain the knowledge of an obscure Nazi song? This short 8-second video is what the Garden Grove Unified School District is responding to today. In it, the video shows about 10 boys from Pacifica High School's water polo team at an off-site award ceremony in December. No coach or adult in sight. The teens appear to be gesturing, using a Nazi salute and singing a Nazi marching song once used to play for German troops and Adolf Hitler during World War II. It has since been taken down. Air 7 HD shows the high school earlier from above. 1,650 students attend. Classes resume next week. We spoke to a former parent who was also a graduate of 72.
I'm shocked that something like that would happen at our high school.
We caught Mike Chambers as he was about to head out for the day. He lives behind Pacifica High.
That's one thing that kids just don't understand nowadays. Anything you post, at some point in time, it will come out.
A spokeswoman for the Garden Grove Unified School District emailed us a lengthy statement saying in part, quote, "It was not brought to the attention of the administration of Pacifica High School until March of 2019, 4 months following the banquet, at which time school administrators took immediate action and addressed the situation with all students and families involved," end quote. This is the second incident involving teens and Nazi gestures in Orange County this year. In March at Newport Harbor High, Snapchat images showed teens with arms outstretched in a similar salute gathered around red cups arranged in the shape of a swastika, as teens played a common drinking game called Rage Cage. But the incident still mystified Chambers, who says his son is half Filipino.
We just don't have a lot of strife, a lot of contention. You don't see the events that happen in other urban areas around the country happen here.
Speaking as a parent, Chambers says he would have kicked the players off the team.
That's a lesson to learn.
The district says they didn't alert the entire school community because this involved an isolated group of students. But the district spokeswoman says they are developing a new protocol for students to report hate speech, including anonymous reporting venues.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Click the ABC7 logo to subscribe to our Eyewitness News YouTube channel.
All right, so you got to see that there was a situation that came to the public's attention that a Southern California school in Garden Groves, water polo team had a banquet, and somehow somebody again took the video, and what you saw is what you're kind of seeing on your screen. That's part of the 8-second shot that they showed. Now, due to the simple fact that nationalism, white nationalism, white supremacy is heightened in this land, there's a lot of people who again will attribute that a lot of this shaking the country up and bringing what they believe that was at the sediment, like the bottom, in the bottom of the glass that then rolls up, is due to the simple fact that our president now, Donald Trump, had brought this out. And I like to say that, how could he bring something out if that wasn't already there, right? And, just like having Pope in your orange juice. All right, you see the orange, right, as the juice you're going to drink. But because the glass been sitting still, or the container sitting still, the Pope went down to the bottom. So you're saying that I'm saying because Donald Trump has, or no, I ain't gonna say, I'm saying what people say because of Donald Trump being there and speaking what they would say anti-Semitic or nationalist rhetoric, that the Pope is now rose up and everybody's seeing it and they don't like it and they want to attribute that to him. It's one thing I would say to defend the fact that he didn't do this. This has always been here, right? Because again, a lot of people don't know that this country here, predominantly when you think about the Caucasian aspect to this country, other than the other aspects of the European, most of them are German descent, right? Because, the United States doesn't have an official language, right? A lot of people don't know that, because you hear people who say, "Oh, why don't you speak English?" Well, English might be what they say de facto, right? De facto meaning, in a sense, when you think of de facto, it's not really legitimate. It is just the occupiers using this as how they're going to communicate and do business, but it's not the official because it's called American English. Because to be English, don't you have to be in England? That's where the origin of, you get what I'm saying? So, but the most common, according to what they say statistically, when we look at the numbers, they said that German is the most spoken language in this country. So with that being said, that if it's German, that means you have to have German people. right? And so if you got German people, then you can understand why the Aryan doctrine, the Aryan, philosophy is permeated in a lot of the Caucasians in this land. And so based on, I have been watching this show, I created a video about 5 years ago called White Extinction, right? In that, I wasn't saying that anybody particular was going to kill them. I was relaying the fact, again, what I do as Black Minds News is I disseminate the information of the news that is already out there. And so what I did is I put together a rendition of how I presented it that showed with statistics, talking about the demographic change and how having the problems with having copulations, producing offsprings, going into using science, and due to the simple fact of, again, they would say in the ideology of the white nationalists is miscegenation that is causing a lot of the hardship that they see demographically. And they see that, again, according to they call demographers, which they said at a specific time in the coming future, this particular group of people would now fall. Matter of fact, I just did a video recently that they had brought out again in 2019 about white, depopulation. And so, again, they tell you that self-preservation is number one, right? That is the first thing that for anybody is to preserve oneself. So when you look at it from a nation, it wouldn't be any different, right? But maybe by the means about how people do it, people may not be agreed. But again, that is just a given, right? And so when you say German, Aryan, all that other stuff, and again, the history to it and the way people have been inundated, whether it be propaganda or truth, have a bad notion about what you see and you hear. So when they see this and they show this, it got the historical part to it. Right away, you're going to go with equate it to the history. And with that history, we've been told that a particular people had been genocide, right? We all know about the Holocaust and so forth. And so that's always associated with the imagery, the symbol, and all that. So let me tell you also, too, that, if you ever heard of Operation Paperclip, it used to be called Project Paperclip when I originally was doing some reading on that. And it was just talking about how those who had been the scientists that were working on a lot of the weaponry and science for the Third Reich, Fourth Reich, right? And how a lot of them were brought to the United States. Okay? And matter of fact, I think the United States wasn't the only ones who were trying to get there. Russia and the rest of them. So I think the United States got them and grabbed them and brought them here. So then you have a lot of that here as well. And then you already have, again, a lot of the population is of that. And so now that you have a lot of them there, so again, it have been here for some period of time since the 40s and the 50s. So now you have, this rearing of their head because, again, the coming demographic change, because even in the ideology that they talked about in white nationalists, as they said that, because, again, a lot of it, they say anti-Semitic is because they believe that the Jews use the melting pot by bringing other people to actually decimate them as a people, right? They say that the Jews are the ones who this whole skewing the line of mixing blood. And so this has caused a demographic catastrophe amongst their nation trying to maintain their original position of who they are. And so what you're doing is you're seeing a re-inculcating and reteaching of those who are to carry the torch, is to say. And when people seeing this, they're kind of like, okay, what's really going on here? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of the background to this, because there's a lot that goes on here, right? So again, like I said, it was engineers and technicians. There was a Werner von Braun that also came. These was it was the B-2 rocket team. And so what it says that Germany to America for the United States government employment primarily from 1945 to 1959. Okay? And some of these were former leaders in the Nazi parties. Now, a lot of them is here, they families and all that other good stuff. So then what about some of the ideology? Again, they were coming from where, the empire, the German empire is getting destroyed. Then again, like I say, Project Paperclip, a lot of them coming here. So some of these are grandfathers and great-grandfathers of people who are still people today. So that means the information and so forth has been continuously pushed. So there is a sentiment in this land that is descendants of that which was established, whether directly or indirectly, or is it just by blood? It could just be. And so the precepts that they stand on and that they hold dear started again when it goes back. And I will give you some history to this. So let me go ahead. Let me tell you a little something. Let me show you a little something. Because again, this is Black Minds News. We just disseminate what's the information. Okay, that's what we do over here. All right, so I'm going to go here first. Let me tell you this here. Let me read this to you and then we'll be right back. Check this out. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give you some background to the symbol of the swastika. That says the sign, which is the swastika, is a special interest because it has also been used in the Buddhist culture spears to signify rebirth and prosperity. The swastika is called swastika in Sanskrit, which means well-being or positive being. It is often found on the statues of Buddha and is common sign in the symbol, like footprints, of the Buddha. The mirror image of this sign, swastika, is called swastika in Sanskrit and is associated with darkness, misfortune, and suffering. Both these signs are also found in pre-Columbian America. The earliest occurrence of the swastika in Europe are in ancient Greece. There are many variations, such as the swastika used to decorate vases. In Christian symbolism, swastika is called crux grammata. The name, as does the Greek gammadion, comes from the Greek letter gamma. It is also its four gamma signs have been put together to make the swastika. Another Greek name for it is the tetraskala, the four-legged one. In English, it is called the flot. In ancient China, and that flot is spelled F-Y-L-F-O-T. In ancient China, the symbol swastika stood for a wan, 10,000, compared with the single cross, which is 10, which was not only a large number, but also a general superlative. It was not until the 1920s that Hitler adopted the swastika, and swastika for the first time was used, drawn within the circle, the symbol for eternity. In Finland, the swastika was used from 1918 in connection with the War of Liberation from the Russian Empire. Even today, the swastika is a common Finnish symbol. More will be said about the particular sign history in Finland and Germany under the heading Ideographic Struggles in the United or Europe during the 1930s. It is clear that the swastika is strongly associated with power and energy. In Scandinavia, it was once known as Thor's hammer. Today, it is used on some maps to signify electric power stations. ASEA, now ABB, a Swedish manufacturer of electrical machines, use swastikas in its logotype or logotype until the Second World War. Now I'm going to also give you something that is called the 1488. You ever heard of 1488? 1488 means the 14 words, or 1488 is a reference to the 14-word slogan. In the word Southern Cal School District strongly condemns video showing students giving Nazi salute the ideographic struggles in Europe during the 1930s. The most successful and in many ways most conscious attempt to manipulate the masses with the help of ideograms was undertaken in Germany. It might even be true that Nazi Germany never would have come into existence without the use of ideograms. In Mein Kampf, Adolf Hitler wrote, "The question of the new banner, i.e., how it should look, occupy our minds considerably. The reason being that not only was it to be a symbol for our struggle, but also had to be very effective on posters and placards. Those who have had experience with the masses realize just how important such a seemingly trivial thing is. A working and effective sign can be the deciding factors in hundreds of separate instances as to whether an interest is awoken for a moment. The swastika was already being used in both Germany and Austria at the turn of the century. Swastikas had an anti-Semitic undertone. The advocates of racial purity had used swastikas in an anti-Semitic journal, in leaflets, and on posters. This movement was most likely an expression of aggression against the socioeconomic repressions practiced by the capital-owning class, where the number of Jews was disproportionately high considering the relative size of the group. The sign had also seen used by a number of the so-called Free Corps, independent paramilitary units in Germany, such as the Earnhardt Brigade and the Rossbach Free Corps, who used the swastikas in their standards. Hitler's main supporters at this time was the Air Force officers and former commanders of the Reichshofen Squadron during the First World War. Hermann Göring, after World War I, Göring worked as a taxi pilot in Stockholm. One day he was given the job of flying the Swedish exporter Count Erik von Rosen to his castle, Rockelstad. Once they had reached their destination, Göring was invited to warm himself against the winter cold in front of a fireplace. In the wrought iron that decorated the fireplace, Göring noticed the symbol swastika, a symbol that Erik von Rosen had already made use of, a type of honor mark when traveling in South America and Africa among primitive peoples. Having eventually warmed up and enjoyed a toddy, Göring turned his attention to the rest of the interior, and was then that a beautiful woman made her way down the stairs that led into the hall of the castle, where Göring was sitting in the company of his host. The woman was Karen von Kunstal, a relative of the family through her marriage to the Swedish officer. Göring was struck by Armer's arrow where he sat in front of the fire. On this particular night, Göring had been struck twice, first by Sybil and second by the love of his life. Both were to follow him and his fortune commander Hitler in the coming years. A few years earlier, Erik von Rosen, favorite symbol and spread eastward, Finland had been since the 15th century a part of Swedereich, i.e. Sweden, but Russia expanded and challenged the power of Swedereich in the 17th century, conquered the eastern part of the Swedish Empire, which became the Grand Princedom of Finland in the Tsar's Empire. After the October Revolution, many people took the opportunity to free themselves from the Russian shackles. Among these were the inhabitants of Finland. This resulted in civil war between the Reds, the communist workers and crafters, and the whites, the aristocracy, the landowners, and the farmers who owned their fields, the freeholders. It was during this struggle for the independence that the embryo for the independent Finnish Air Force was conceived. Its first fighter plane was a gift from the Count Erich von Rosen. It was, as a matter of course, decorated with the favorite sign swastika painted on the wings of the single-engine ski plane. From this year, 1918, until shortly after World War II, the swastika, blue on a white background, was the symbol used by the Finnish Air Force. During the years that preceded Hitler's eventual seizure of the power in Germany in 1933, he spent much time in the company of Göring and Göring's wife, Karen. There is hardly any doubt that the Nazi swastika that led the wave of blood and fire over the greater parts of Europe between 1930 and 1940 had the roots that stretched from South America voyages of discovery to a castle in the valley of Malarin or Malarin, and then onto the Bavarian Alps, cared for by the addicted German pilots Ace and Swedish women from an aristocratic family. Hitler made use of the ancient Greek and Indian sign. The swastika is the symbol of a national socialism. Already in the year before the war, World War I, German groups had taken the swastika as their sign. It stood for their struggle against all that was harmful to a pure race, all that was un-German, and the destructive influence of the Jews. In this way, the swastika became a particularly powerful anti-Semitic sign. Hitler turned swastikas into an effective tool of propaganda. He succeeded in this by simplifying the structure and creating a uniformity, swastika, by perpetuating repetition through all possible media, and last, but the most important of all, by an almost religious worship of the symbol. We can exemplify this with one cult object, Die Blutfahne, the blood banner. This was a swastika banner that had been used in the failed attempt coup in Munich on 9 November 1923. In the ensuing battle, the banner was sprayed with the blood of one of the coup's perpetrators. Hitler made a sound point of touching every new Nazi SA and SS banner with this blood-stained cloth. On the other occasion, a large wagon decorated with flowers and bearing a giant swastika banner was pulled by Aryan people dressed in white cloaks through the center of town, unchanged since the Middle Ages. The political sessions in Nuremberg likewise had Nazi symbols as the cult object. Hitler cried, "Hail my men!" and 100,000 Nazis replied, "Hail my leader." It was then to the accompaniment of low drum rolls that thousands of banners and standards were unfurled. Military music, resounding commands, and straight lines of uniformed soldiers all added to the intensity of the moment. The swastika banner was red, representing socialism, with a white circle area for eternity, virginity, and the Aryan ideal. Within the circle, the swastika for the people power movement and anti-Semitism. The swastika was officially recognized as the Nazi party sign on August 7, 1920. Hitler wrote, during the summer of 1920, the new banner was publicly revealed for the first time. It suited our movement perfectly. It was as young and new as our movement. No one had ever seen it before. The effect was the same as it had been dropped as a bomb from MINDZ call. All right, so give you a little bit of history to the background of the swastika and how that became the symbol, the ideology of a nation who used it to, again, to galvanize and perpetuate the mind. Now that symbol itself, the swastika, is older than them creating it in through what they say in Austria and Germany. That symbol's way older, man. They said something about Buddha. And you know Buddha was black too, right? You know Buddha was black, right? But that symbol is way older. That symbol is also the all turning, right? Forever continuing, right? And so, what's the blood, man? I thought this was about them kids. Well, again, it's all associated because of the simple fact that you see them children in there, somebody teaching them that, right? You don't grow up knowing this. Somebody, family, there's some activity in the community. This is just the white nationalist understanding that, again, the Bible talks about rearing your child, inculcating them in every aspect. Every place is always a convenient time to talk. And so birds of the feather flock together. So we just have to say that this particular school here, again, they say it's just these on this polo team. But again, when you look at history and athletics, again, this symbol, as they say, the swastika, goes back to Greece. And when the Greeks did it, so I'm pretty sure you're going to talk about Alexander and how they came up with gymnasium and training boys and this is how you get your soldiers. And again, so all this fruition go later in future when Hitler, this is the same thing. They were very much into keeping one body healthy. I mean, one thing when you read and you do that kind of reading, you find out that Hitler was considered a spiritual man, a man that would know about it. That's what I know about these symbols and stuff. And there was a lot of stuff in there. But I'm going to show you something that they who talk about this ideology about what Hitler said, but they take one thing that he did say that they did not want to say. See, this is not solely just for you, right? When he talked about the creator, he didn't say it's only specifically for you, right? And I'm going to show you with his own words what he said, right? So again, these kids that you see, high schoolers, are really young adults, right? They coming into that adults, right? They getting into that stage and somebody's already getting them. So they said that this was just the kids did this, right? And they said the kids, the kids, they did this. There was no supervision there, right? There was no supervision there, right? So let me show you something. Now, according to what the school district had responded, said it was not brought to the attention of the administrators of Pacifica High School till March of 2019, right? Said 4 months following the banquet. So say 4 months. So we're going to say, was that December? March is 3, right? 4th month be December, right? So either November the banquet happened or December. So we're going to say November, right? So it's November, that's when it's taking place. And it said, which this time the administrators took immediate action and addressed the situation with all students and families involved. Let me say that again. All students and families involved. So it wasn't just them kids that was there, right? Because see, when the school, according to, again, they had to address it and deal with it. And then, there's also this kind of little thing that they can hide with schools that they don't have to disclose it because it's against the law for them to do that. So they made it, again, kind of like on college campuses. You ever notice that college campuses got their own police? That way, so the shit that goes on in the university is kind of like Las Vegas motto, or the motto. What stays in the university, what's done on the university, stays on the university, right? We don't bring outside force because, again, we don't need that kind of media attention. We're not trying to mess up our money by having some bad stigmatization put on the school. So we're going to try to find a way to, work it out between the two if it ain't too bad where it don't have to get, that kind of situation, right? So that same thing happened here. They said, well, we didn't need to tell everybody because, again, it was an isolated few people that's on the, ain't no niggas on the water polo team, right? Ain't no niggas going to be playing water polo or the polo team. So, yeah, to worry about that part. So this is kind of just an inclusive, a white thing. And we dealt with those, again, as it says, students and the families that were involved, right? So, okay, well, we handled it the best way. We handled it. So we didn't know, okay, the video did get out there. So I got a question. Who is this? Who's that person there? Is that a high schooler? Because they kind of blurred it out. They made sure you didn't really get to see. And you see them in there, right? And they got their hands up, right? And say, okay, they got their hands up. So again, this is a lot more, in the fabric of this nation, even though a lot of people don't want to admit it and trying to make it seem like, oh, son, I don't know where all this is coming from. It's been here. There's a lot, again, majority of the white folks that are here are German origin, right? As a matter of fact, that's all white folks actually coming from Germany when you think about it, right? But I remember when they called German, right? I'll go back even maybe further than that. But, so I'm just saying, is that individual right there, is that a grown up or is that, who's that individual over there in the corner, right? Is that an adult? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. The camera kind of caught a little taste, right? It caught a little bit, right? I mean, that's their business. If that's what they doing, okay, they got caught, it's out there. But see this here, right? See? As a high schooler having a party, got the cups in the shape of the swastika, then they Heil Hitler. Again, what did you hear in the history talked about? Right? It was Heil to my soldiers, and then they hail back to our leader, right? So it's the ideology that they hold. And again, there's a term that they use that, again, as you heard the definition and history to the background of the symbol itself, because the symbol in itself, it just means what? Power. I think it's power, purity, well-being, positive being, right? But it says also tied in with darkness and misfortune and suffering, right? So what would be the darkness, misfortune, and suffering? Is it has something to do with the demographic changing? That knowing that one is becoming not the majority people or not even the purest people anymore, because again, miscegenation, race mixing, and again, that's the ideology that one's whole. They said it has tainted and messed it up where they can't keep their purity. And so I guess this is a way that they've been infusing into the younger generation, because they say, hey, you understand? Do you understand what's coming to the 2050 or something like that? So this is what you're seeing. And obviously, it's been catching on, and they just happen to have in position of power the commander-in-chief of the country seems to be holding a lot of the same ideology, right? They're holding a whole lot. And so there's those, again, the John Brown so-called white folks who are trying to find a way to get them out of there because they said that, hey, just stoking this up, this is getting out of hand. But, this is something that's always been persistently there, but again, try to act as if it wasn't. Yeah, a lot of them, again, you know who your family members are. You know who, if, Uncle Joe and Uncle Bob, and cousin, you know who's all in the family. But again, maybe you say that's not what you was down with. But even though you had to put the complexion for the protection and you benefit from being white, but maybe you don't hold all that to be self-evident is true of the ideology that they hold. But they also are looking at, again, statistically, numbers, prosperity and longevity, and they feel that there's something wrong and something going on, right? So again, I want to play this, or actually I'm going to read this to you, because I'm going to give you, again, the term was called, it's called the 14, I think it's called the 14 words, right? So let me read this to you right quick. Hold on, let me go and read this to you. Now I'm going to also give you something that is called the 1488. You ever heard of 1488? 1488 means the 14 words, or 1488 is a reference to the 14-word slogan. And the slogan is, we must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. Or the less common use, because the beauty of the white Aryan woman must not perish from the earth. The slogan was originally coined by the white supremacist David Lane, founding member of the terrorist organization The Order, and served as a rallying cry for militant white nationalists across the globe. The term were coined while he was serving a 190-year sentence in federal prison for his role in violating the civil rights of Jewish talk show host Alan Berg, who was murdered by another member of the group in June of 1984. The slogan was publicized through now defunct 14-Word Press, followed in 1995 by Lane's wife to disseminate her husband's writings. Lane also used the phrasing and other writers include the 14 points in his manifesto of the white genocide conspiracy theory, and further in his 88 precepts essay stressing his support for racial and ethnic religion, opposition to multiculturalism and miscegenation, and support for racial separatism. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, the 14-word slogan is derived from a passage in Adolf Hitler's autobiographical book, Mein Kampf. The 14 words are predominantly used by neo-Nazis, white power skinheads, and certain white nationalists as the alt-right. Lane was bitterly opposed to the continued existence of the United States as a political entity, labeling it the murderers of the white race, and advocate domestic terrorism as a tool to carve out a white homeland. To that end, Lane issued a declaration called Moral Authority, published through the now defunct 14-Word Press and shared through the publication of Aryan Nations, World Church of the Creator, and other white separatist groups, referring to the United States as a red, white, and blue traveling mass murder machine, intent on committing genocide against white people. According to the declaration, true moral authority belongs to those who resist this purported genocide. Okay? And there's more to that, right? But I want to give you something that, again, I'm going to give it directly from Mein Kampf, right? If you should happen to own the copy, page 288 goes to 289. And it reads like this. What we have to fight for is the security of the existence and the increase of our race and our people, the nourishment of its children, and the preservation of the purity of the blood, the freedom and independence of the fatherland, in order to enable our people to mature for the fulfillment of the mission which the Creator of the universe has allotted also to them. All right, so you heard that, right? That is not solely to just one. That's the part they leave out. Also to them. What we have to fight for is the security and existence and the increase of our race and our people, the nourishment of its children, and the preservation of the purity of the blood, freedom and independence of the fatherland, in our case, motherland, in order to enable our people to mature for the fulfillment of the mission which the Creator of the universe has allotted also to them. So this is where self-preservation is at. Okay? So that's what one is doing. See? You understand where you see a lot of you out here, you have women, white women, and they said that was the whole concept, keeping that white woman pure so that she is the baby making to making other white people. But the white woman is out here copulating, relationships and sexing up and baby mamas with other people outside of her own. What does that do to the white nation? So they've been feeling that. And they say they believe that it is the Jews, because they say, well, you control media, you control the movies, you're the one doing the propaganda and all this and making this again. So, again, the fruitioning of things are manifesting in the time that we're in. And so now that you have, then you never heard, didn't get to understand, go back and listen again. This is where the stance of what the foundation of what they're talking about, right? So in its face, it looks racial, and it is. And again, somebody need elbow room. So now to see why sometimes we seeing the things that happen when we talk about municipalities and people, we talk about, well, you know, citizenry and this should be happening. Ask yourself, what does this that I just told you got to do with any of it? Okay, that's something you're gonna have to ask yourself. So again, this is Black Minds News. Just want to bring something to you, and you know, it just is what it is, right? You gotta remember that, y'all. Again, to say we got some difficult days ahead of us. So I want to thank you for your participation. Remember, when you see one another, what's good, brother? What's good, sister? Get a universal nod. Take all that hate, jealousy, envy, and spite out your ass, and understand we is all we got. Understand that those who are in the uniform and on the team that you own. Yes, allies are important. Are you willing? Ask them, are they willing to be in the frying pan when the shit gets hot? Ask them. You ever heard of John Brown? Is it just a story, or is it a fictitious book or something, a myth that you heard? Understand, there's some out here who's seeking for our demise. So it is incumbent that we stay vigilant, mindful, cautious, and high-spirited. This is your host again, Mr. Blows Your Minds. Want to say peace, love, and to the next show, y'all. To the next show.